Good afternoon, everybody. I know we are all running behind schedule, so I'll try and be as brief as I can. And the previous speaker actually has addressed a lot of details in which we intended to, share some perspectives on. So just to start with first, what is Rumi Education? Yes, we are a very new organization, 3 years old, very quiet about what we are doing, very rarely come onto forums like these and share. But we think the time is now right for us to come and really share what we are doing, how we are doing, and how we think we are different than lots happening in this space. Why we are coming out now? Because we believe we have tested everything, we've tried everything, and when we share something, it purely comes not as an intent, it comes as something which has been demonstrated and proven that it's working with more than 100 schools that we have partnered with. So Rumi Education is an initiative primarily designed to improve the quality of education with the affordable schools. There's lots happening in schools with at the higher income level or schools which charge very high attractive fees. You have technology access, you have access to great teachers, you have access to great infrastructure, you have access to great leadership, you have access to the internet, to the Google Earth, to have everything. But the challenge primarily is in the 85–90% of the population, which is at the mid to lower middle income level. They have limited access to technology, limited access to broadband, limited access to well-trained, qualified teachers. So what happens in these schools? How does the entire education level rise to the next challenge within the entire education community? And that, according to me, is what is a reflection of where this country will go and where this country will ultimately evolve. So, statistics, everyone is well aware about, but still I will kind of try and touch around it. Let's see what is the efficiency index of the Indian education. I'm talking about school education, in general education. So we all are aware about the statistics, 361 million population to be enrolled within schools. Ultimately what we have is around 200 and odd. The net enrollment, because we have almost 80–90 million dropping out by the time they reach class 10. So the net enrollment is at 132 million. Of this 132 million, only 17 million move on to higher education, 17. From these 17 and odd million which move on to higher education, almost 14.5 million do just basic graduation, which is arts, commerce and science, not professional programs. So what is the output? What is the outcome? You have hardly 3.4 million employable youth in this country. This is 9% of the entire student employable population and serving only 5% of the market need. So what does it lead to? Either they have to go back to school because they have to learn, which they did not pick up over the last so many years of learning, or they go to finishing schools or vocational schools or remain unemployed. So this to me is a true reflection of which way is the education system leading in this India and what is really the output of it, and thereby how efficient it is. Are we globally competitive, and how are we globally competitive is very evident. So in this My School at India, the output what is generated out over there is very reflective in the Human Development Index. We stand 132nd in the world. Last one written about the ASER report. We all understand that. I'm sorry, there's some alignment challenge over here on the system. There is a TIMSS benchmark, which is the lowest level benchmark available in the world on math efficiency and math competency. Even on that, 2 states in this country have been assessed, and they stand 42nd and 46th out of the 50 countries assessed globally, which is a very lowest level of math assessment. Teachers, we all talk about teacher development, but what are the hard statistics out over here? So yesterday someone mentioned 46% of teachers are underqualified. You have 1.7 million shortage of teachers in this country. You have 90% government expenditure going on purely infrastructure maintenance. Private sector is very wary of investing in teacher development. So where will the entire development happen? Who will invest in it? Who will build on this? It's a big question mark out over here. We all are, it's very fashionable to say government education doesn't work. Government education is X and Y and Z. I'm raising a fundamental question. What about private education? If private education is so efficient, if private education is so very effective, why do you have a $6 billion industry which is on tuitions? Of the $20 billion industry of education, private education market, you have another $6 billion which is purely tutoring. Why? Because something is not working in the basic school education, which has led to a parallel industry in tuitions. So let's just stop, looking at government schools and government channels. This is a challenge over there. But even in the private schools, there's a huge challenge out over here. Yesterday, Meena Ganesh herself mentioned her daughter goes to one of the most premium schools, and her challenges with her child is that, half of the time the teacher is just writing and scribbling on the board. This is happening in a very high-end efficient school. So given this scenario, let's first reflect on what are these global practices happening globally, or what are these best practices happening globally. At the core of this entire thing, I would say something very fundamental, which someone touched today morning about this, is that there is a very critical factor when it comes to education globally. There is accountability. I think that very critical factor is a big question mark in the Indian context. So where does accountability really derive from? Where does it come from? I would say global institutions are built on three very basic fundamentals: great leadership, great academic design and pedagogy, and teachers. These three are sacred. You don't play around with this. You don't test and try and do experiments in this area. This is the basic structure of best practices if you want to adopt and build any education or education system in any part of the world. So what is this, global solution that we can look at? The first, at the very core, is teaching a profession of choice. A very fundamental question. We all know where it stands in terms of the salary and the pay structure. We know where it stands in terms of other levels of competitiveness. Today, a call center employee gets, much more, and if she's well skilled, gets much better than what a teacher gets. So obviously, there are much more attractive, well-paying professions than teaching. But this is a very fundamental core and a very long-term issue and subject, so I'm not going to, dwell upon this, because this will take generations to evolve and change, and it requires a very different level of intervention.